Now to start with, what is the objective of making a project execution plan? The major objective should be very clear at the beginning. It's not just a document. It's a very important document that formulates plans, establishes procedures, clearly defined procedures to efficiently and effectively manage execution. So that has to be the objective. It's not one particular document which is generated just for the sake of having it in our records that yeah, there is a PEP. No, that's not the objective. It should be an objective. It should be a document which is used throughout the execution of a project for efficient and effective management of a project. So what are the things that are part of the project execution plan? First of all, it should have a summary. Now the summary will have the project snapshot. It will have, if the project snapshot is the basic snapshot, who is the client, what is the location. Now I was just going through the list of attendees. Most of the attendees, majority I would say, is belong to the IT field. But unfortunately, my area of working or my area of experience is mostly in the oil and gas sector. So my presentation might have slight affiliation or slight leaning towards projects which are on the EPC mode. That's the engineering, procurement and construction mode. So there might be some things which might be slightly off tune for the IT people, but more or less for the majority or for the entire scope understanding or for the entire gamut of this presentation, it all focuses on the project execution fundamentals guided by the 10 knowledge areas. So to continue with the project execution plan summary, it should have a project snapshot. That's the basic thing. Who's the client, who's the consultant, who are the start time, the end time, where's the location, and all those broad things. A broad level scope of work. Now here in the project summary, we are not talking of a detailed scope of work. That gets detailed at a, we'll get into those in the subsequent slides. We are talking of a broad scope of work, location, details of the location. Now again, that's where we concentrate. The location, depending on the micro level location, our entire project execution plan might change. So if we are executing a project in Gujarat, it might have different flow. It might have a different philosophy. If we are executing a project in Assam, it might have a different philosophy. If we are executing a project in North Sea, it might have a different philosophy. So that's the reason the micro level location is also very important. Salient features of a project and the work breakdown structure at a very high level. In the project summary, we are not talking of a broad work breakdown structure. At a detailed level, we are talking of a broad level WBS. So these are the salient features that are part of the project summary. The vision of a project execution plan should be very clear. The entire focus of executing a project is guided by the vision. The vision might be expansion to a new location. These are just two of the guidelines or two of the things, parameters which might be part of a vision. But generally it is this thing. It actually gets encompassed into these two major visions, that is expansion to a new location and or build relationship with new clients. The vision should be very clear whenever we are preparing a project execution plan. Now, what is the end goal? At the end of the project, when the project is executed, when the project is completed, what is the end goal that we are planning to achieve? So what is the target goal that we are talking about? The most important thing is core reliability. That is what we are talking in terms of goodwill, in terms of repeat customer, in terms of a broader expansion of the base. So those core reliability becomes very important. Timely completion, of course, that's the key. Now, being part of the Samsung group, we would say that I would say that we are obsessed with schedule. So Samsung works on that's the USP of Samsung group. We complete project before time. We are the people who insist on a client to have a bonus clause, and we have on most of the occasions we have got that bonus clause value. So that's one of the USPs, and that's one of the cultures which is part of the Samsung culture. Best performance, nothing to be said about it. Effective QA/QC management. Know the schedule adherence, meeting targets, not at the cost of any QA/QC flaw. Absolutely not acceptable. So this can only be done when we have a proper and an effective QA/QC management in place. Zero error safety. No room for any errors. Safety cannot be compromised. Safety is prime. And of course, as an end contractor, or as the person or as an organization executing a project, naturally we would like to make profit. So cost optimization should be the goal. Now, these are some of the 6 parameters that should be part of the goal, which at the end of the project execution, and the entire project execution plan should flow along these goals. So the goal should be an undercurrent in the entire project execution plan. Now we come to the key success factors. How do we achieve those goals, and what are the key success factors? Here I would like to spend some more time on this slide. First one is the effective progress tracking. By effective, what we mean is that we already have, as part of the project execution plan, as part of the project controls plan or the planning package, we always have the how to monitor progress, how to track the progress. That's something which is always there. Otherwise, you won't even know where you are heading toward. But how do we have an effective progress tracking? What are the mechanisms that we want to use to have an effective progress tracking? One of the things which immediately comes to our mind, or which we have been implementing in all our projects, is an early trigger mechanism. Now, early trigger mechanism is something, it is a culmination, or it is a combination of what if analysis and the present existing scenario within the constraints. It's always easy to have the status of a shortfall or where we are ahead of the schedule at the end of the reporting period, but that doesn't solve the problem. The problem is, instead of the area of focus is that instead of having a curative approach in case of an overrun or a slippage, we are talking of a preventive approach. Now that's an early trigger mechanism. We have various tools which we implement or which we use for having an early trigger mechanism. We have a 15-day look ahead, for example. We have a 30-day look ahead depending on the schedule, depending on how we are progressing. We might have one. We also have maybe a 24 hours look ahead. If it's something where it involves high capacity cranes deployment, for example, or we are talking of something where the resources are very limited and they are very expensive, then we might have a trigger mechanism at every level. But ideally, the early trigger mechanism starts at 90 days look ahead. So that's one of the early trigger mechanisms which we have been using. Key success factors: close coordination with the stakeholders. We'll do a stakeholder analysis as we go about this particular presentation. But until and unless we have a close coordination with the stakeholders, the entire thing, the entire effort goes down the drain. So we are very clear that there has to be clear-cut close coordination. Now, close coordination can be through emails, can be through teleconferences, video conferences on a weekly basis, on a fortnightly basis, or a face-to-face meetings on a weekly or a fortnightly basis, depending on the project duration and the sensitivity of a particular project. But still we have a very close coordination. That's one of the key success factors. Then we are talking of optimized resources. Again, it's a self-explanatory term. Error-free quality output. We have already discussed that. That the quality the output has to be of world-class quality. Otherwise, the organization or the team that is delivering this output isn't a global standard team. Again, the key success factor. We are here to make money. It always has to be a positive cash flow. Now, it's actually, when we are talking of various resources, the projects that we execute, they run into 2 years, 3 years duration. Maintaining a positive cash flow, that's the inflow should be higher than the outflow, is something which we have to plan well in advance, so that we don't land up in a situation where because I'll tell you, the type of projects that we do, they are high risk projects. There are many multiple issues that come up. There are multiple risks, external, internal risks that might crop up at any point of time. Maybe an environmental risk, a political risk, something of an economic risk, especially nowadays. So we need to have those proper safeguards, and that's the reason a positive cash flow is very important. Clarity of statutory regulations. Now again, this is purely, I won't say purely, but yeah, it's very important when we are executing projects of our nature, which are oil and gas, a polluting sort of a industry. So we need to be very clear that we don't pollute, or we are not instrumental, or we are not responsible for creating more pollution in the environment. So statutory regulations, very important aspect, and clear understanding of taxation and laws. If you don't have this thing at the beginning of a project execution, at the beginning of a project, we can be rest assured that we are going to, and unfortunately, I've been there in this industry, or I've